Jesus went with his disciples across the Kidron Valley, where there was a garden, which he and his disciples entered. Jesus went off by himself to pray, asking the disciples to keep vigil with him, to stay awake by the fire. Although their spirits were willing, each time Jesus returned to them, he found them asleep. His hour was at hand. And as his trial begins, we go to the Garden of Gethsemane, after Jesus has been arrested by the Romans.
I was with the Romans when they took Jesus away. They paid me 30 pieces of silver just to show them who he was. I thought that Jesus would reveal himself as the Son of God, and I thought he would strike down the Romans, freeing us from this oppression. I thought he would claim his power as Messiah in front of Caiaphas, the chief priest, and his other priests at the trial. He did none of these things. Even when Peter drew his sword and attacked the chief priest's slave, cutting off his right ear, Jesus told Peter to put his sword away. He healed the slave's ear and then was taken away. I have given our leader to those who will punish him. I have betrayed them all. How can I possibly return to my brothers? How can I return to the other disciples? I'm alone now. I fear I have shared bread and wine with my friends for the last time.
Each of the disciples remembers a moment from Jesus' ministry, remembers the way he was changed by his words, his deeds. On this night, they too are left alone, and each of them wonders what will happen to him, what will happen next.
I remember the day we were with Jesus on the mountainside. He was teaching us about his Father's kingdom. Blessed are the meek, he said. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are those who mourn. I was blessed from the moment he called me to be with him, and I never realized it. I was blessed as I saw him reach out to those who were hungry, those who were poor, those who were sick, and those who were oppressed. He came bringing words of hope and joy to so many who needed it. I saw how their lives were changed by his words, how they were transformed before my eyes. Now I am one who is poor in spirit. Now I am one who mourns. Now I am one who hungers for righteousness. Now I need to hear his words just once more.
How do you recall in one night all the ways that Jesus has touched your life? How do you recall in one night all the ways that Jesus touched the lives of others? So many wonders, so many miracles. Why did the son of a carpenter care for so many people?
No matter where we went, Jesus' reputation went before us. There were times we had to go to the top of a hill to speak to the crowds. Sometimes he had to get into a boat and go out in the lake a little way so that he wouldn't be overwhelmed. One evening after he spoke to many and healed many, we continued on our journey, and they followed. There were too many people to enter the town. They wouldn't have enough food for so many. We didn't have enough food to feed so many. We only had a couple of loaves and fishes, enough to feed a few. Jesus instructed us to break the bread and fishes and give it to the crowd. But there were so many, too many for us to feed with the little we had. And yet every person who reached into the basket pulled out bread or pulled out fish. There was enough for everyone, and even some left over. I hunger to hear the voice once more, to sit and eat with him. I fear I'll never do that again.
As the night passes, each of the disciples is left alone with his thoughts for the first time since Jesus called each one by name. There is no joy on this night, only fear, regret, sorrow, and guilt. Although the disciples heard the words of Jesus, not until now did they begin to understand them.
Our teacher, Jesus, he met so many people along the way. We went to the places where the Gentiles lived. I remember when we met the Syrophoenician woman. She asked him to heal her daughter. At first he refused, but she persisted. She challenged him, not for her sake, but for her daughter's behalf. She sought the one she knew who could heal her daughter. Her faith led her to him, and after her challenge, Jesus healed her daughter and sent the woman on her way. On our journeys, we also traveled to Samaria. Jesus sat down by the well, the one that our ancestor Jacob made. We saw him speaking with a woman there who had given him some water. She was so happy. We knew that Jesus had done something for her. He spoke to this woman as if they were part of his community. Who will he embrace as his family now? When will he ever return to us?
There was so much that Jesus shared. How could the disciples take it all in? This was the first night of what was to come. This was the beginning of the new way. On this night, they could not realize that their time of darkness would not last forever.
The stories Jesus told us, where could they have come from if not God? They were full of wisdom, so full of lessons for us. They echoed the lessons given to Moses and spoken by the prophets, Jeremiah and Isaiah. They were about the things we have forgotten, the things we stopped hearing from our priests. The time to change our ways has come. We heard how God seeks to bring home the lost one, home, like the sheep, the coin, or a wayward child, and to welcome us with open arms. We learned how we need only to have a little faith like a mustard seed, and the Lord will help it grow. We learned that goodness is in all people, even if they are Samaritans. We learned that we must always be awake and alert, expectantly waiting for God's return. But on this night, I forgot the messages of the story. When they came to arrest him, I did not stand with him, and now I'm lost.
Jesus performed miracles everywhere he went. Blind people were able to see. Deaf people were able to hear. The lame walked. Demons were cast out. Many sought out Jesus, not only for themselves, but for someone they loved.
The crowd seemed to grow each day, yet somehow that woman reached Jesus and touched the bottom of his robe. He felt the power go out of him. We thought it was a masses of people pressing in on him, but then the woman identified herself. She came forward and thanked Jesus for healing her. She had been sick for 12 years. She had faith to believe that Jesus alone would heal her. And though there were too many people separating her from him, she somehow was able to touch the hem of the robe and be completely healed. Even a Roman guard, a centurion, sought Jesus. The centurion spoke of Jesus' authority and recognized his power. He came and asked Jesus to heal his slave. Jesus spoke with him and healed him right then and there. His healing power touched so many, some we knew, others were complete strangers. I wish I had his healing power now, but my heart is broken.
This is the longest night of their lives. The disciples have scattered like leaves on the wind. It's not known where they have gone. They fear for their lives. They do not want to be arrested. They do not want to testify before the Sanhedrin. They do not want to be brought before Pilate. They do not want to be with Jesus now. Those who witnessed his greatest miracles are unable to be witnesses for him at his trial.
Word came to us that Lazarus, the brother of Martha and Mary, was ill. Although we warned Jesus that the Jews had sought to stone him and that he should not return just then, he decided to go anyway. And so we went with him, fearing for our lives, not knowing what punishment might lie ahead. We arrived too late. Martha came out of the village to meet us to tell us that her brother was gone. Jesus then entered the village and went to Mary. When he saw all those around him weeping for the loss of Lazarus, he also wept. We thought he would stay and mourn with the family. We thought he would stand by them, offering what comfort he could. He said, "Take away the stone." He prayed to God, thanking the Lord for hearing him. And then he said, "Lazarus, come out." And Lazarus did. I can still remember it like it was yesterday. Who will stand by Jesus now? Who will comfort him? Who will call Jesus out of the arms of those who arrested him?
Jesus taught wherever he went. Time and again he returned to the temple, the center of his faith. It had become a place of iniquity. It was becoming a barrier to the repentance of the Israelites. It needed to be cleansed as the people needed to be cleansed.
Day after day we would listen to him in the temple. We weren't the only ones there. He recalled the words of the prophet, He brought the law back to life, awakened the law that was within our hearts. He shared with us the words of God, the will of God. He talked of so many things. He brought the stories of our ancestors back to us. Some called him a great teacher. Others called him a prophet, like the prophets of old. He cleansed the temple of the money changers and all those who bought and sold there. He cleansed our hearts, helping us to remember the Lord's covenant with Abraham, Moses, our deliverer, and our greatest king, David. He made the temple a dwelling place for the Lord. Where can we go now? For without Jesus, how can we go to the temple?
As Jesus' popularity grew, some were not comfortable with the message he preached and the words he offered. They did not know what to do with this man. They did not know if they should support him. They were blind to what they saw, deaf to what they heard in his teachings, in his healings, and in his ministry.
Wherever we went, the chief priests and the scribes were there. Some questioned Jesus about the things he said. Some questioned him about the people he healed. Some questioned him about doing work on the Sabbath. Some questioned him about the authority by which he said the things he said and did the things he did. There were always questions. They seemed to be at every turn. I do not know why some watched him. Others watched those of who followed him. Still, others watched the people who came from everywhere, wanting to hear him, wanting to see him, wanting to be healed by him. A few counselors, like Joseph of Arimathea, spoke with him as the equal, respected his wisdom, and called him Rabbi. What questions are they asking him now? What answers do they expect to hear? What answers will he offer them? Why did I go with him to face the Pharisees and the Sadducees? What answers would I give them?
Our expectations aren't always fulfilled. The hope of one day can quickly fade. Although the disciples were with Jesus and they heard what he said, they were not given to understand it. They could not read the signs. They were too caught up in the present to see what would transpire in the future.
How did it all happen? When did it all happen? Wasn't it just a few days ago that Jesus sent us to find a colt? Didn't we come into Jerusalem in the midst of cheers, songs, and laughter? Men, women, and children came out to meet him on the road, waving palms in the air. The loud hosannas rang out in the street. They called him the son of King David. They called him the prophet of Nazareth and Galilee. He had changed the lives of so many. People were healed. People were full of hope. They were full of hope. We felt our world was changing, that a new time was coming. The people were with us. The people were with Jesus. The people were with Jesus. And now no one is with him, not even one of us. We fled from his side, leaving him alone in this hour of need. What should I do? Where can I go?
As clarity comes, as the disciples begin to believe, they are left to deal with what they did not do on this night. For a time, they will be overwhelmed by their regret, by their failure. But in time, they remember the significance of Jesus' life. They remember the significance of this night, of the Last Supper, of forgiveness.
Tonight, Jesus spoke of so many things. He spoke of the promise of a kingdom to come. He spoke of a new covenant between our Lord and the people. He spoke of a new commandment of love. It is hard to remember all of the things he spoke of. Has it only been a few years since he called our names to follow him so that he could teach others a new way? He sent us out to share what we learned, empowering us to speak to the hearts of others wherever we went. What was it he said about the kingdom to come? It was about being born anew, about being born of the Spirit. We were to change our ways, to hear the message he shared, and to live it. He warned us to be ready. For no one knew, not even he, when this kingdom would arrive. He tried to prepare us for the suffering that would come. Tonight, on this night, he must suffer alone. For when they came to arrest him, I didn't have the courage to go with him.
It is dawn. All of the disciples have scattered. They fear that they too will be arrested. They are sorrowful, for Jesus has been taken away. Is it possible he will be taken before the Romans? Is it possible that he will be crucified? The disciples begin to be in their own valley of despair. They do not know what will happen to them. They have forgotten the words given to them in Jesus' teaching, in his preaching. They have forgotten the miracles he has performed. They have forgotten the love he shared. On this night, they have lost themselves, although they have broken bread and drunk from the cup.
Jesus called me the Rock, because when he asked me, "Who do you say that I am?" I answered, "You are the Messiah." Tonight at dinner, after he washed our feet, when he said that one of us would betray him, I swore that I would not, I could not do any such thing. I did, in fact, deny that I knew him. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And as he said, 3 times before the cock crowed. I am no rock. In my fear, I have denied the one I have given up everything to follow. In my ignorance, I have lost all he sought to teach us these past 3 years. I do not know where to go from here. I do not know what will happen. I have failed him. I have failed the other disciples. I wish I could break bread and drink from the cup with him one more time. I remember his words around the table. He said that every time we gather to break bread, we should do it in remembrance of him. So I will remember him this night, and I will remember his love for us and the gifts he shared.